views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, we go 52 blocks. Martial arts and boxing coach master Lyte Burly joins me up next, explaining and demonstrating what 52 blocks is all about. You're watching Perspectives with yours truly, Darren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, just speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Darren Hyman. Of course, we thank you for joining us. And as always, you watch Perspectives here on BronxNet's Channel 67. If you want to find out more information, we encourage you to go to the website at bronxnet.org. Follow us on our social media platforms at BronxNet TV. And if you're looking for me personally, well, guess what? You can find me on Facebook. My professional page is Darren C. Jaime. And then Twitter and Instagram at DC Jaime 23. Well, like we talked about at the top of the show, yes, we are talking about 52 blocks, and we're going to get you into the world of martial arts. Our guest, a very good one, an expert in the field, talking about Lyte Burly. In 2007, Lyte founded 52 Blocks Incorporated, where he offers in-person and online training sessions to students between the ages of 6 all the way up to 45. Lyte has conducted training seminars in various locations internationally and nationally, including Denmark, Canada, Maryland, Texas, and Michigan. He's produced now and some instructional DVDs, accumulating over 1 million views on more than 175 instructional videos on YouTube. He has a website, and Lyte also sells his books, including The Legendary Art of 52 Blocks and the Habits of a Warrior. Pleased to have on our show right now, Lyte Burly.
Salute.
Welcome,
salute.
brother.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, in a time in the country where literally people laugh and say it's time we have to be armed and dangerous, you're actually arming people in a different kind of way.
Right. Right.
And so talk to us a little bit about your work. I mean, you're doing martial arts, you're instructing people, and you're making a difference. So how did the whole martial arts thing come about?
I've always been into martial arts when I was younger. I started off when Bruce Lee movies was in, and we would come home from the Bruce Lee movies, and my mother opened the door, and I would hold her back and karate roll into the darkness. So kind of started from there. Then she put me into the YMCA, and we moved to Queens, New York, where it was the first time I had seen the art of 52 blocks. And in Queens, that's how, brothers fought, and everything was, man up, hands up, no weapons, no guns. That way, whatever disputes we have, everybody goes home. There's a winner, there's a loser, but everybody's alive. So 52 blocks was that art. And the first time I had seen it was with a guy that was dating my cousin named True Guard, and he got into a dispute with a guy. They were arguing, and while they were arguing, he did a move and tilted his hat to the side, and the guy watched it, and he threw the shot and knocked him out. And I guess you really even couldn't call it a fight, but what caught me was the deception and the hand feints and what he did leading up to that shot he threw. And from that moment on, I was on the path, and I ended up moving to Manhattan, and I met a lot of good brothers that helped me. A good friend that passed away, Mr. G, he was instrumental in giving me a lot of knowledge on 52. Then I met my head teachers, Mr. Roberto Sharp and Mr. Wilson Pitt, and that's when the explosion happened, because up to that point, nobody could really explain to me like what they thought 52 was. What I seen it as was a defensive system, like a way to train your shield. And being in the world of martial arts, everybody's thinking about how to hurt somebody. Nobody's not thinking about how not to be hurt. It's almost like that's not even thought about, because everybody's mind is on I'm the winner. You know, nobody wants to say I'm going to be the loser in this fight. So defense is like, it's not even talked about really. It's like something the punks would do. Like, if you're a real man, you stand and deliver. So it was Wilson Pitts that had shown to me that the path of defense came when black fighters were allowed to compete in boxing, and what black fighters brought in was defense, the other flip side of the coin. And before this, boxing was a brutal art. It was outlawed. Like, they had to have it in the back of speakeasies and away from the police, because at that time it was, you know, the victorious one went home looking like a pound of chopped meat. Even though he had the belt on, his wife couldn't recognize him. And it was black men that got in like, oh, no, brother, that's not how we do it. Like, I still want to look pretty. I want to go home to my wife and still look pretty. And this brought in the defense that would become would make boxing the sweet science, when it was termed as the sweet science. And then that's when boxing went from this outlaw thing to something that's an actual art. And the defense of that kind of trickled down into its own art, which was 52 blocks. And that's what the brothers were doing.
But for you, honestly, you took that and you didn't just take it and ran with it for yourself. You learned it, you mastered it, you became that, but then you decide now to pass this on and to be a teacher and to teach, you know. And I said in the intro, you got anybody from the ages of 6 to 45 coming on in and learning. Talk to me a little bit about the work that you're doing in instructional.
Oh man, well, I ended up doing a seminar with a guy named Dominic Izzo, Chicago PD, and you know, he said the one thing he liked about 52, since it was all defense, they could actually learn it without, you know, having to hurt somebody, because a lot of the arts that were coming to them was like, you know, break somebody's neck, break an arm, and they, you know, like, we couldn't really use those tactics, and we liked this, like the art of non-fighting. And that's when it clicked to me, and I was like, that's a very good term. So what I teach with the young men is how to be defensive, to where you can end the fight before the fight actually starts. Because once you make it a fight, no matter, you know, skills definitely matter, but it could be any given Sunday and you can be the good guy and still go home hurt. But with defense, you can not only protect yourself, but you can end the fight, because most people don't want to fight against something they can't hit. Like, you know, after a while, that kind of pulls your brain out of the fight, and you can end the fight without anybody getting hurt. Or you could just, you know, I taught an all girls seminar in Morgan State. My daughter set it up, and I taught them, you know, block, feint, and evade, which was like use the defense to escape. Because once you engage in the fight, it's going to be a different thing. You know, the fight is, it could be, you know, this is a man, he's stronger than you. So even with all of your skills, you can still lose. So the defensive way of using the 52 as a way to escape seemed more logical and more real to what I've seen what fighting could be. So I teach, you know, the young men. I've done a lot of seminars working with the women, the young men, on that. If you heighten your level of defense, which is self-preservation, you know, you can actually, you know, make it home safer than, you know, what, you know, fighting back. Which is, there is a time to fight back, but a lot of times you can end the fight on defense. And then what happens is the physical training of it seeps past the physical, and you start to learn how to defensively end fights verbally without even having to go there.
So, I mean, the big word that we're using here is de-escalation, right? And I mean, many times when you watch a lot of videos, God help us, on YouTube, or you see them on social media, you see the offense, you see how it goes down, but very rarely do we actually see de-escalation. And so, for somebody who's watching, how hard is it to really learn some of the things that you're teaching?
Well, you know, I've always said self-preservation is built into you. Offense is not. We don't naturally know how to throw punches because your hand wasn't really made for punching. We don't really naturally know how to kick because we're two-legged creatures. We don't naturally know how to wrestle because we're not a king python. So offense is really outside of you. Defense is within you. Like there's a block, the most famous block in 52 is a block called Skull and Crossbones. Now, this is a scientific look at it. But most people, if you try to hit them with something, they'll do something like this anyway. So it's already in you. So it's way easier to learn the art of self-preservation than to learn the art of trying to kill another person.
It's a powerful tool. And so as you're moving out and about, talk to us about what you're doing nowadays.
Well, nowadays I've got with a very super management team, Bullion Management. Shout outs to them, and we're working on the slap boxing tournament. I want to bring slap boxing back for the kids, and that's a way for them to test, because that's how we used to play with our 52 when I was coming up, was through slap boxing. So we're going to get some special gloves made that kind of look like a hand, padded up, and they'll be able to go out there and, you know, have fun with the slap boxing, represent the 52, and get something that gets them off the couch and away from the PlayStation games for a little while, get them a little bit more active. I'm hoping to do choreograph some fight scenes. I think 52 blocks is a beautiful art. Any directors watching this, call me up. Right. 52 blocks is a beautiful art for the screen. Tyler Perry. These brothers need to. It's the only Black American fight. It's the only American fighting art. America has no other fighting art besides 52 blocks. So it's the only Black American fighting art. So it would tear up movies. Matter of fact, Ludacris, who's a supporter of it, did a segment. He has a fight scene in the new Fast and Furious. So go check that out. So we got some big boys that's supporting us. CT Fletcher, he's working with us to help us get the word out there. But so I'm hoping to choreograph some fight scenes and start showing 52 in that level, because I spent the last 15 years just trying to show the effectiveness of it. I flew to different countries. I got over 10,000 hours of sparring. So I really battle tested it. I wanted to make sure it was correct, that the techniques I was displaying. And so I definitely want to do more seminars. That's another big thing. But between the getting it onto the movie screen and the slap boxing league, that's the two big pushes that we have coming up.
Yeah, winding down on our time together, but I just want to get ask you the question. Talk to me a little bit about what's the message that you want to send to people through your work.
Self-preservation, love yourself. Defense is love of yourself. Offense is love of hurting someone else. So I believe martial arts, we believe in mental, spiritual, and physical. Because when you work the physical enough, because you're sitting by yourself so much, you start working on your mental. And when you start working on your mental so much, those two seep into your spiritual. So with defense, through this physical defense that I teach, the biggest message is love of self. Is that self-preservation is high love of self. And if you can get into that mode, not only will this art help you physically, it can help you spiritually, mentally. It's like the Book of Five Rings. Like, you can use these philosophies in business. So my the core focus point is love of self, self-preservation.
Before we go, I got to wrap up, but let me ask you a question. How do people get in touch with you, brother?
Oh, man, you can reach me at lyteburly.com. That is the big website. We got all of the, I got 8 digital downloads, 1 physical book, 4 ebooks. I have 2 online courses, learn-martialarts.com, which is the one where you can learn to certify. And we also have advanced.lyteburly.com. That has many playlists. I got different teachers teaching different arts on there. You can also find me on Facebook under Charlie Burly, Instagram Lyte Burly 52, and on YouTube, which has been my baby, 52 Blocks Info. We got 50,000 subscribers, over 5 million uploaded views, so we doing pretty good over there. And I just switched the reactionary videos now, so we're going to go to a podcast. So, you can check that out on my YouTube channel.
Well, Lyte, definitely been a pleasure to have you here, man. And certainly got to come back and check us out here on Perspective.
Yes. I would love to come back.
All right, Lyte Burly, our guest here on Perspectives. Listen, I want you to stay with us. We got our next guest coming up in just a few seconds. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the show. We are pleased to have our next guest join us. And if you want to know a little about him, an actor, a singer, songwriter, but most of all, a person that's doing some great work in the area of human rights, feeding over 3 million people through his foundation, the Power of One Foundation. He's one that's been doing a few things. We can talk about Days of Our Lives. We can talk about singing. We can talk about literally putting boots on the ground. And not just that, an owner of a soccer team. Andre Roberson joins us here on Perspectives. Andre, good to have you, brother.
Good afternoon. How you doing? Thank you for having me on.
I'm doing good, man. Got a whole lot to chop up in a little bit of time, so we just gonna get right at it. But
Right.
I really want to be able to have an opportunity to talk to you because you've done some outstanding work. When we talk about COVID, we had food insecurity before COVID. COVID really further exacerbated that. But your foundation literally put boots on the ground in California, able to feed more than 3 million people. Talk to us about the work of Power of One Foundation.
Well, Power of One Foundation is a culmination of 17 years of work. My mom and my grandmother actually started another nonprofit, Official No One Left Behind. And so today we've serviced over 11 million pounds of food. Through that, I wanted to expand my efforts. So I started my own nonprofit and wanted to just concentrate on logistics and taking my creative efforts and applying them to a nonprofit model to be able to raise money, but also be able to be in the community. And when the pandemic hit, I was one of the first nonprofits in Orange County to start weekly distributions. I got food for 7,000 people. Didn't know what to expect. I ended up at the first distribution having a 10-mile line. Mm-hmm. And from that 10-mile line, I stayed at one location for 3 weeks. Then the police shut me down and decided to partner with me. And that began my road. So I moved all across town in some of the biggest locations, landmarks in Orange County, like the Orange County Fairgrounds, Santa Ana College, which is a staple, partnered with IKEA and Northgate Markets and other businesses that came in and joined in. So we were able to do weekly distributions. And from doing the weekly distributions, I was able to garner more food within the city to be able to partner up with other local nonprofits between San Diego and Northern California to be able to make sure that we expanded our reach into food insecurity. So this is something that I believe is very important in my life. And I feel that it's my calling, what I was called to do, to be here for the community, to be able to feed. And, I pick up over 1 million pounds of food a month that I distribute into the community.
Right. And when we talk about this, I want to go back to what you said, because I didn't want us to just brush over that. When you first got started, you started out. You were out there, you're feeding people. And the lines were long in California. And you ended up with the police actually shutting you down to the place where they go from shutting you down to partnering with you. Sure.
Absolutely. And that was during a climate where, we had a lot of unarmed Black men being shot. So the social justice climate was very shaky. So for me, it was surprising, but it was a breath of fresh air. And it was a turning point in starting to build a relationship with our police department. And it showed me a different side because, they had to adjust traffic almost 3 to 5 miles away from my distribution and bring that in. And not only that, I had the chief of police, I had sergeants of police out there putting boxes in the car, as well as mayors, congressmen, and then all of the community. So it was really a community effort, and businesses like Northgate Markets donating me 30,000 square feet of warehouse space during the pandemic because I'm receiving 10 to 15 truckloads, doing 10 to 15 distributions a weekend.
Mm. And at one point, did you say the situation is really bad? Because when you look at California, we knew that next to New York, the hardest hit. But when it came to the food insecurity, I think a lot of people took that for granted. But you were able to see it front and center. Were you surprised by the amount of people that were actually gravitating for food?
I really was, because for me, before the pandemic, I would do monthly, roughly about anywhere between 500 to 1,000 families that would be consistent with me. But then once the pandemic hit, it was like, you had everybody from every level of income, white collar, blue collar, and then, your hardest hit areas within Orange County, LA, San Diego, that were already in need, that just went further into a need. And so, when you got Land Rovers, Teslas, and different things driving through your distribution line, you're like, wow, okay, this has really hit in all sectors of our community.
And they're just not getting it to get it to fill, just to pick it up. No, they get it because they really need it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to realize a lot of the businesses closed, restaurants closed. You had people who had owners who had businesses that had to fire all their employees because they couldn't hold on, and they had never been in this circumstance. I've had people driving through the lines, in a Tesla crying and telling us their testimony. And for us, we're in a business where we don't judge. It's not my job to judge you different things. If you come through the line and you say you need food, my job is to give it to you. God bless you.
Right. Well, I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about before you got there, because as we said on the outset, you're an actor, you're a singer, you're also, songwriter, you got a whole lot going on. But we know that you're an actor, spending some time on Days of Our Lives and then some. But talk to us a little bit about that acting career.
Acting career, I've really had a really blessed acting career. I got discovered by Judy Landis, John Landis' sister-in-law, who said, "Oh, you're going to be famous." And, I looked at her like, yeah, whatever. Next thing I knew, I was on Silk Stockings. And then I'm, doing commercials with Lou Holtz and Chris Rock and Kobe and Shaq, may he rest in peace. So for me, from there, I was bitten. And I got the opportunity to be on Days of Our Lives for a good stint. I was in Notorious, other films, District, Dangerous Minds. And now, further into it, growing and not wanting to be typecast in different things, I got a chance to learn the backside of the industry. So now I started my production company, and now I have movie productions that I'm putting in the works. We're definitely doing a documentary on how I fed 3 million people during a pandemic in 1 year, because I think that story needs to be told, because it was not easy. And and we didn't have any government grants and so many things. It was the community that funded. So it's a miracle story.
Yeah, when you talk about that miracle story, obviously it's coming to a documentary through your production company. And you've got the acting, the singing, you talk about that. But then I didn't even bring in the fact that you own a soccer team.
Absolutely. So through my musical ventures, I had a partner come up to me and he was like, "Man, will you help me out with my soccer team? I really love your business ethics and what you do, and I believe you can help." And so, I told him, I said, "Okay, well, let me take a look at the team." Went out there to one practice, and I saw these women putting their hearts out there on the field in a practice, and saw moves that I was like, okay, dang, I could probably never do that. And I saw the skills. But then after talking to these women, they were like, "You know what? We really want to do something with their life. They don't do enough for women's soccer." And I looked at it as a prime opportunity. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know what? Women do need to be supported in athletics and the soccer field, because MLS is doing great. So for me, I looked at it, I was like, you know what? I'll take this challenge. And then we got into our first season this year. And we did pretty good. And, coming from off of COVID, nobody in shape and everybody getting in shape, and, having your coaches, we had a really good season, and these women worked their butts off during this season to move. So I'm excited for us to get into our second season. We're bringing in more coaching staff, partnered with Salvation Army. I'm partnered with the Orange County Soccer Club out here, so that I can get other guidances on how to better these women's life in the sports of soccer.
So I guess the big question I have is, how do you do the balance? Because balance is a big thing, right? So you got the foundation, you got the singing, you got the acting, production company. Now you turn around, you tell me about the women's club. How do you make the balance occur?
I'm thanking God every day, to be honest, man, because people tell me, like, how do you have the energy that you have? To me, I'm like, I'm high on life. You know, for me, it's like when you have the opportunity to be able to help people the way that I have, I take my time, I manage it very tightly, but I have a very, very great support base. My partner in the foundation, a lot of the community members that come out and volunteer. So during the pandemic, I was able to raise up a lot of leaders so I don't have to be at every distribution. Now I got distributions going on that I never even touch, but it's touching a community, which allows me time to, manage my soccer team. And then when it comes to my creative efforts, that's something I do all day, every day. So whether I'm driving in the car, or I'm at a distribution, I'm writing a song, or I'm thinking about a movie idea. And then my time is 1 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning. That's my solid time. So then that's my creative time. And then from me being in the industry so long, it's like I pace myself because I'm not after the rat race of auditioning every 2 seconds and I'm not above it. It's just that I've made different choices. I really want to produce the content that I would like to see out into the world.
Yeah, before we leave, let's get some advice. What advice would you give somebody about really following your dream? Because ultimately that's what you're doing and you're having some great success at it.
I follow your dream because you never know where it may lead you. And as long as you have the will and the breath to take a step forward, you're successful. And you never know who's waiting for you, who's going to come across your path. And help comes in ways that you don't expect it. A lot of the times we look for the people that are closest to us to support us. And those are not the people that support us. When I got into this pandemic, when I started feeding people weekly, I had no money. I did not know how I was going to make this happen, but I knew that this was what I was supposed to do to be on the right side of history. And as I took that step forward, I come home one day and there's $250,000 check in my mailbox. I don't know who was watching me. I still don't know to this day. So you never know who's going to support you. So living your dream is living your purpose.
Gotta leave it there, Andre Roberson. Thanks so much for being with us here on Perspectives. Why don't you come back, brother, to let us know how things are going? You got a lot to talk about.
Hey, absolutely. And I thank you for having me. And it's an honor to be here. And I love the Perspectives show.
Thank you so much, man. In full transparency, that we did an interview not too long before, a while ago, actually. But
yeah,
he's out in the field doing a food distribution and had time for it, brother. So thank you for having time for me again. And certainly we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, and I want you to make sure that you watch out for this year marks the 20th anniversary for 9/11, and my foundation has been commissioned to do an event on Camp Pendleton, our Marine base out here. So we're doing that. I'm performing, got a lot of other performers coming in, some great celebrity guests that are going to be joining us. So that's something the next time I talk to you that I definitely want to share, and then share marketing materials with you, because 9/11 was something that impacted us all. And being in this pandemic, I'm starting a tour, which is the Reunited States of America tour.
Wow. Awesome. We definitely have to have you back, Andre, our guest here on Perspectives. And yes, we are out of time. I want to tell you, thank you for watching Perspectives. As you heard from Andre's testimony, you got to follow your dream. There's a purpose and a plan that's attached to it. And when you learn how to follow it, good things will happen. Darren Jaime saying, take care. God bless. Be sure to share your perspective with somebody else. Just might make a difference in somebody else's life. See you next week.
Relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, just speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it.